I'm still Regina. This is Ben. Despite the fact that there is no name tag there, we've decided to adopt him for these last 2 rounds, which is great because this matchup, we are staring at the team sheets and there's been a lot of what the heck, what is going on? One of these Pokemon has definitely earned the first half of its name, and the rest of it is gonna be kind of wild. For a lot of you, these 2 names might be familiar. We'll have Alejandro Jimenez, or Legacy as some of you might know him, versus Nate Ortiz, otherwise known as Cortex. So I saw this matchup and I was like, you know what, sure, why not? And then I saw their team sheets and I went, oh no, what have I done?
Yeah, Nate's team looks relatively standard. You have a few cool techs here, but I'd rather not look at the other team.
You guys are gonna see Alex's team on screen in a little bit, and you're also gonna go like, what the heck is going on? He came up to us and told us, hey, his opponents are getting frustrated because of the fact that one of these is
I'm good.
Yeah, it's so he goes, yeah, my opponents are getting really frustrated with one of these Pokemon, and we looked at the Pokemon he was talking about and went, why is this happening? I mean, hey, if you're an Evolution fan, you'll probably really like some of the Pokemon on this team. Otherwise, this is gonna be kind of a headache, honestly.
Do you think he enjoys playing this?
Yeah. I think he enjoys just sitting there and being like, you can't do anything to this Pokemon. You're like, okay, cool. I like the way you did. Shame you can't do anything else. Actually, it's great because you actually have in your lap right now one of the Pokemon that he is using. So
I don't want to. You hold it now.
Okay. Yeah. He's like, after seeing that Terra typing, he's like, I don't want this anymore. So spoiler alert, this is one of the Pokemon that Alex does have on their team. They are setting themselves up right now. A lot of you who have watched previous Pokemon like World Championships and stuff know what a threat an Umbreon can be, but I don't think you've seen the this Umbreon in this case, how annoying it is with its Terra typing. I think it's actually a pretty standard moveset that you would see for an Umbreon. It's just when you have the rest of the team, it suddenly becomes a lot more frustrating. So
yeah, and it's not something you would. Umbreon is like reasonable because it has inner focus. This format, it obviously can't get faked out. Not that it really matters, but like this thing's existence is just painful, honestly, because it's the rest of the team is what really makes it bad. I don't even know what to say. Like,
honestly, like, I think individually all of the Pokemon Alex's team on different parts of other VGC teams would be like, yeah, okay, this is fine, it's great, like, as a support Pokemon. But when you kind of put like this mishmash all together, you're just sort of like, this is one of those teams that exists to just frustrate you and be like, okay, there's like one thing after the other that can happen. Like, honestly, there's really only 1 or 2 heavy hitters on this team, right? And I know we're being like very vague about this. We're just waiting for them to set up. And actually, now that they're on here, both Legacy and Cortex, whose names I will actually probably use interchangeably right now, just because that's how I know them more often than not. Nate's team right now, if you would like to introduce it, is a little bit more standard.
Yeah, so we NDD armor, which is something that's been pretty prevalent in this format now that NDD has access to trigger him. I didn't actually see the power band on Meowscarada.
I was gonna say, I just saw power band Meowscarada.
I read that as choice band. I don't know how to choose.
Okay.
I mean, I guess it underspeeds things.
Okay, wait, Razor Claw Hydreigon as well.
Yeah, that's something that's been running around a little bit now because you can focus energy and Draco, the Draco crits will effectively negate it.
Okay.
But I think most people would still prefer some other item like Life Orb or Choice Scarf.
And now we can talk about Alex's team. So Legacy's team on your right side is going to be Sableye, Toxapex, Mismagius, Garchomp, Umbreon, and Sylveon. That Toxapex really puts the toxic in this team, honestly.
Yeah. So the really interesting thing about this is you look at this and there's almost no real like damage output. You're really only looking at Garchomp and Sylveon to get you board position, but it's not really something you can rely on because you have 2 of your 6 Pokemon that are like traditional damage dealers.
Yeah, and we were like, kind of looking at this team, and because it is open team state, they both have access to those moves here. And so if you're Nate, you're looking at this Magnus and going like, there's a potential Paris song like endgame here, but really, when you're looking at the Terra typings for all of these Pokemon, that Toxapex in particular is one of those Pokemon that I'm just like, I do not like the way that this is playing out. It's one of the few Pokemon this generation that also has access to Wide Guard. I think it's actually been really difficult to find good Pokemon that have Wide Guard, especially with all the spread moves that are coming out. But double evolutions out on the field here with Umbreon and Sylveon versus an Indeedee and Hydreigon onto the field. So that Umbreon built like a tank and that Sylveon ready to take down any opponents.
Yeah, if you're Nate though, most Hydreigons are either Terra, Fairy, or Steel, or not Fairy, Fire, or Steel. So this looks like a somewhat free focus energy if you want it, but it's not like you really have too many options either way because Hydreigon can't really hit Sylveon or Umbreon that well.
Yeah, and I actually, this is the first time that I've seen an Indeedee this game at least not go for a follow me. We saw that click into Dazzle game. I'm pretty sure that's Nate's side that's going for the Terrasilize. And yep, there's Hydreigon, revealing to everybody now that it is a Fire Terrasilize for that Hydreigon. So again, nice just because at least you don't have to worry about like the Fairy type moves in there, like dealing quadruple damage to it. Like you said, a free focus energy here to boost up its stats a little bit. Like, really easy choice for it to do as Indeedee goes for that Dazzling Gleam into both Umbreon and Sylveon. Umbreon taking it like a champ. Sylveon going for the Hyper Voice, thanks to Pixelate, is going to get a little bit boosted. And Umbreon Snarling going to knock down those special attacks, but really just small amounts of damage getting here. The most important thing I think about Hydreigon getting that focus energy in this instance.
Yeah, like from here on out, the special attack drops don't really matter, but it's kind of how are you damaging the Sylveon at this point? Dazzling Gleam is obviously not doing much damage, and your Terra Fire, if you're Terra Fire, you presumably have Heat Wave, and that's still Sylveon is still a very bulky Pokemon.
Oh, I'm not sure if that critical hit matters in there after that helping hand. Umbreon generally really tanky is going to go down to a Draco Meter with helping from the helping hand, and also that booster from that focus energy. That Sylveon does a lot of damage with that Hyper Voice this time around. Is able to heal back up to full health with its leftovers. I'm actually generally used to seeing Sylveon with Throat Spray just to boost up that special attack a little bit more. So the leftovers being able to just give it a little bit of like that extra health at the end of every turn. And like you had mentioned before though, these two Pokemon, that Sylveon and Garchomp, being the main attackers for Alex, is now they're just both out on that field, and Indeedee and Hydreigon both at half health.
Yeah, I mean, now the concerning thing is though, you have your Hydreigon out. It's looking like it's your real only like way of dealing with this Garchomp at this point. But it's also slower than Garchomp, and I think most Garchomps nowadays will carry Rock Slide. But
I mean, hey, where there's a Rock Slide, where there's a flinch, there's a wave. But Alex opting to protect that Garchomp on this turn so it doesn't take like maybe a helping hand Draco Meter, but Indeedee's saying follow me instead for that Sylveon. But we've seen that Sylveon just click into Hyper Voice multiple times. Draco Meter going into the only slot that it could, which is that Garchomp, which is protect itself this turn, and Sylveon going for that Hyper Voice once more here. Actually, really just Nate sort of like taking. I feel like this damage is just sort of free for Sylveon at that point.
yeah, I was gonna say Hydreigon would live another Hyper Voice, but the crit actually somewhat matters. But you're in a really weird position now again because this Garchomp supposedly can't really do anything, and now you're just locked.
Yeah, and Garchomp's just like, hi, the Draco meter, I'm not going to take it. This is Magius in the back. Instead, will be the one to take it. Indeed, going again for another follow me here. Maybe was hoping that the Garchomp would attack, but Hydreigon going for the Draco meter into the Miss Magius, and Miss Magius avoiding it and just saying like, no meter showers today, as Sylveon is able to pick up that double knockout now on both Indeedee and Hydreigon with Hyper Voice. Honestly, this Sylveon was just sort of like, hey, whatever damage you did to me, I got it back from leftovers. I'm just going to keep like, taking these Pokemon down, and even that Miss Magius was just sort of in on the plot, just saying, I'm not even gonna take that Draco meter coming in.
Yeah, so here's the other problem with this pick, is that you haven't really brought any answers to Sylveon. I guess you have the Mouse Hold, but obviously you have Miss Magius on the field. It has Perish Song. This game is sort of coming to a close.
Yeah, either Marshall and I get knocked out, or they perish to that Perish Song, like Miss Magius coming in now and being like, I'm a sing, and everyone is going to get knocked out at the end of 3 turns. And honestly, like, Nate is officially not just like on a game timer, but like on a potential Perish Song timer now as well.
Yeah, you I guess a Phantom Force avoids Perish Song?
I'm not sure. I hope he clicks it so we can find out. That would be great information. I'm actually not sure, because I feel it's still technically like on the field. You just avoid the attacks, right?
Yeah.
But maybe we'll find out this game. If not, we're just definitely going to look it up later. But Maushel protecting itself this turn. Sylveon also protecting itself this turn. Just going to try to, I guess, avoid what would have been a population bomb here. As Annihilate goes for that Phantom Force. We're about to find out right now, hopefully. Yep, there's the Perish Song. So, yeah, I think it affects it. Nope.
Oh, okay.
Alright, well, there's our answer for that. So, Annihilate at least able to hold on for past the 3 turns, but this family is definitely on account now. That's so sad.
Family's gonna die.
No, they can't. They're just gonna get knocked out.
Alright, my bad.
They can't. No, there's children there. There's literally children here, Ben. But, I mean, like, I just think, like, it's weird because it feels like Nate was like in a good spot with like that Hydreigon, Terrace Ice and Fire, getting the focus energy. But now like that Sylveon was just like, I'm gonna scream until things like get knocked out. And Garchomp's gonna come back in here, right? So Sylveon doesn't have to worry about that Perish Song. Annihilate is gonna be able to do some damage, I guess. And I think if that's the Mashal, then excuse me, and then like oh no, that is, I forgot he already Terrace Ice. So a Ghost Miss Magius.
Yeah, I mean, Nate's in a rough position anyways. Once he lost his Hydreigon, he really had no way of dealing enough damage to both the Sylveon and the Garchomp. So obviously, Mousehold.
Oh no!
It does die to Rough Skin before.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that crit matters a little bit.
I think it needs 6 crits.
But. You know, this is one of those instances where you see the Garchomp and you're just like, I already know you have rough skin, but at least I would be able to do some damage into this before I get knocked out. If it could get at least like 2 crits like right now, maybe it could be in a spot where maybe it won't get like a knockdown. It could knock out the Garchomp before, but Mashal not exactly known for, you know, its toughness, but that actually we can't see the Mashal's HP, but is this a double knockout? Are they exchanging?
They both die. They both get knocked out.
Oh my gosh.
But still favorable trade for Alex. You don't really lose anything, and the Annihilate obviously can't move anymore because it just went for the
Phantom Force, yeah. And then, I mean, like, this is a boosted Shadow Ball here, but honestly, it's like, it would have been interesting, right? Because if there was some way that Nate could have, like, come back from that in some way, then the, it wouldn't have mattered because, like, the Annihilate didn't hear the Perish Song. Yeah. So you wouldn't have been quite on like a terrible timer as you normally would have been, but Sylveon could just scream and knock something out at this point. So, I mean, I think the difficult part here was that Hydreigon and that Indeedee weren't really doing much after a certain point, but Sylveon was just able to like keep attacking and just keep getting damage down onto both of those Pokemon.
Yeah. Hydreigon did get crit by a Hyper Voice, so I think it would have lived another one, but at that point you also don't know, like, you missed the Draco, how much damage does Heat Wave do to Sylveon, does that put it in range of Annihilate, so there's a lot of questions you need to ask, and both players both players know like the Miss Magius' focus sash, and do you know the base speed of Miss Magius?
No, but we can. Well, while this game is wrapping up, because it's really just like at this point, you know, you have the substitute up, and you're not really like worried about like what's happening there, because that's Sylveon's just like, hey, here's a hyper voice. I hid behind the substitute just in case, which honestly I appreciate when like players like actually guarantee themselves an endgame, because you never know what could happen. Let's see, Miss Maggie is here. Scrolling. Oh God.
Okay, so
that's pretty fast.
It's base 105, so it always outspeeds Hydreigon, which actually makes this matchup really hard, because you can't guarantee a way to always kill it before it can hit Perish or Icy Wind, or you can just Will-O-Wisp on your mouse hold.
Yeah, honestly, that was a lot faster than I was expecting for Miss Magius.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think if you look at it, right, like I don't think there's ever an issue with leading something like Indeedee and Hydreigon. I just think the problem is there once, hey, you're realizing that like maybe you're not doing as much damage as you could be towards other things. Like that Sylveon again, like sort of had like free reign to just keep clicking Hyper Voice. Because for me, having Indeedee click follow me when that Sylveon hadn't really shown any other moves, and when you're looking at the Sylveon and just being like, well, like it really only has two moves that it could use to like it only has two moves. It has Shadow Ball and it has Hyper Voice, right? So like Shadow Ball, I mean, sure, if you like hit into the Hydreigon with that, it's like I'm gonna do whatever, but clicking for the follow me every single time I think is a little odd when you can just do spread damage and not worry about wide guard.
Yeah.
I want to see what this Umbreon will do. I really hope he brings it. It's just a tank, right? Like that Umbreon is just there to just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna keep snarling and recovering health and snarling and making sure I'm just a general pain in your butt. Like I think targeting it down was probably the smart idea. It was again like after that turn, like what do you do about the Sylveon, right? Because you don't really have a fantastic answer with the 4 that you brought for it. It stayed on the field except for the time that Alex was like, I'm gonna take it back out, and like we see them back on the field here. But Indeedee Armorage, a combination that a lot of people are probably familiar with, right? You got that expanding force. This Armorage is, I think Terra Grass is something that a lot of people have been doing too for Armorage, just to give it a little bit like more defensive stuff in there, and like not have to worry about like something like water type moves at all. Expanding force though, fantastic for it.
I mean, this is where we see Umbreon really shine, right? There's not much that Armorage can really do other than maybe go for a, I think we saw Armor Cannon on this set. But even then, it's very specially bulky. There's not much that you can actually like deal to it in terms of damage. You could just infinitely sit there and spam snarls on this Sylveon we saw as leftovers. So obviously, the longer the Sylveon and Umbreon stay together on the field, the
more annoying they are, because it's like nothing ever happened at all. Double protect here from the Sylveon and from the Armorage as Indeedee goes for the Dazzling Gleam. It will do super effective damage to the Umbreon, but again, that Umbreon's got so much defense in there. Like it's like it barely moves at the point. Not that like, you know, Indeedee is like the most offensive Pokemon that you'll see, as Snarl will connect into that Indeedee. Won't do much. Obviously, you kind of want to take the Armorage, but both the attackers on this field are going for those protects.
And this is one of those interesting turns, right? You can either call that he goes for the Terrifier, because at least from our point of view, it doesn't look like Alex really has any like offensive pressure that you can use with the Terra other than Garchomp. So Terrifier is pretty safe here to live Armor Cannon, but it's also, do you live the Expanding Force?
How bulky is this Umbreon is like the question now that you're asking if you're name, because you don't really want to have to try to risk it. But Sylveon, not really willing to stay out here, is going to be switched out for that Miss Magius, which we had seen that last game. We know for sure that it has that Shadow Ball and it has that Parasong, and it's fast. But Indeedee clapping those hands together, going to be helping out that Armorage, and is going to at least boost up that Armor Cannon, which would actually have, I'm guessing it would have gone into what was, oh no, it goes into that Umbreon, is able to knock it out here, will take that hit to its defense and its special defense. But Umbreon, I think it is respectable that if you look at that Umbreon, you go, hey, I don't want to deal with you, I don't want to deal with your shenanigans, I'm going to knock you out.
Yeah, so now for Alex though, yeah, you have your Garchomp with levitating his Magi's out. I think from the set we see though, it has Will-O-Wisp, Parasong, Icy Wind, and Shadow Ball. So you can't really reliably kill this NDD before it maybe hits something like a Trick Room.
I love that that's like a thing now for this Indeedee, that they were like, hey, we can catch this in raids and it can set up Trick Room now. Like, at this point, it's like you kind of feel bad for male Indeedee because it's like you did have your uses no longer. Now, like, now female Indeedee does everything that you could have done, but better now, right? But like you said, like with Levitate next to like a Garchomp, you're usually just free to say, hey, I'm gonna click Earthquake and go. And we're going to see the Terastallize, and we're going to see the ground-type Terastallize here on Garchomp. It is going to make those Earthquakes just a little bit heavier, a little bit scarier. I think the Armarouge went for a Trick Room, which... Oh no, went for Protect, so I'm actually not going to have to take that damage here. I think it was the Indeedee that clicked the Trick Room. Miss Magus going for the Icy Wind. Indeedee will be going last because of that Trick Room. Priority is going to lower down the speed of this Indeedee, which not really going to matter. Like, the Icy Wind is fine here. Earthquake from Garchomp, not going to touch its partner Pokemon because of that Levitate, not going to touch Armarouge because of that Protect. It's just a matter of how much damage will it do to this Indeedee, and I don't actually know if it's going to be quite enough to knock it out before Trick Room does get set up. So,
and especially because most Indeedees now are very physically defensive because Mousehold.
Population Bomb.
Population Bomb. You can live with a berry, but Mousehold Population Bomb does kill otherwise.
It's so wild to me that like that tiny Pokemon, I remember seeing it in game and I was like, this would be really cool to use in VGC, and then people actually did, and I went, oh, this is great. I love that like this tiny family is able to like hit 10 in a row, right? The fact that you have wide lens technician for it is nasty. But Indeedee holding on is gonna let Trick Room get set up. So Alex gonna have to be a little bit more careful here. Is currently using his Terra type. That Armarouge now gonna be in like a pretty nice place. It's interesting because Icy Wind would work against you in this case if you were Alex, right? You just knock down the speed of stuff and then things get slower.
Yeah, and I mean, you assume Indeedee would have been slower anyways, but now both your Pokemon are taking it.
Oof, yikes. I mean, Dazzling Gleam does not matter at all in there, but like that expanding force on terrain and just being able to just grab that double knockout there is just fantastic for Nate, right? A way different game that we're seeing here now than we did in game 1, where Alex was able to at least preserve that Sylveon like early on, but now it's just this lone Sylveon versus everything else, and it's kind of in that tough position where sure you could sacrifice you know, some HP for a substitute, but that can only go so far. Did I just see a Trick Room? Did I just... Oh my gosh. I think here, right, like it's kind of crazy that if you're Nate, you were just able to be like, hey, I'm gonna keep the rest of my Pokemon a secret. Like, yeah, there's nothing wrong.
The Mousehold is the end game.
I love that that's what's happening here, is that you're just like, ah, yes, my end game, 3 little mice together. it's wild to me how much like it feels like, despite seeing like the same Pokemon sometimes on teams, it feels like there's a lot of variety in like the way that some of these Pokemon look, right? And Sylveon going for that substitute, gonna sacrifice some of that HP as that Armarouge did switch out. Indeedee reversing that Trick Room one more time, so instead of so we are back to normal now with these Twisted Dimensions. And actually it's really nice here now because that Leftovers is going to give you a little back of HP from that substitute sacrifice.
Yeah, even now though, you can just switch to Mousehold. Sylveon can't really do enough damage with Hyper Voice to even really... It might not even 2-hit KO the Mousehold with the... because it seems to be a relatively bulky one. And that's the main concern with this team, right? You have 4 bulky Pokemon that can't really deal damage. And so it's the main concern is how do you beat Indeedee Armarouge if they call the Terastallize, right? And then the other one is not relevant in this, but it's Murkrow, Garchomp, Hydreigon. How do you beat that?
You don't. You just click run. And I actually really appreciate that like the Annihilate is a fire Terastallize here too, just because then you're like a lot of the weaknesses that you might be facing you can just get rid of. You don't have to worry about as much. Indeedee, already kind of doing its job, and also now that terrain has expired, you're at least able to bring it back out into the field, reset it, give Armarouge that little bit of extra boost to it. And I don't think it really needs it, right? As long as Infernape is able to just... Sorry, God. it's been a long day already for me, guys. Like, as long as Annihilate is able to, like, you know, knock out like that substitute, but Sylveon's just like, I have a substitute, I'm gonna hide behind a protect as well. So really, I'm gonna make you waste like an extra turn or two for this. Is that Shadow Claw is gonna connect down into it. But it's nice that at least that the Armorage is able to come in relatively free.
Yeah, I mean you're stalling for the inevitable at this point, right? Like you have 4 Pokemon against one. One of us is a mouse that will
literally mess up your life.
That's pretty much guaranteed to one-hit KO you. 90% of the time, but you know.
90% of the time, it's 100% of the time you will get knocked out by this family of mice. This is a Pokemon is a family game, guys. That's why there is a family of mice that are ready to just take names. And yeah, I mean, Anaya is able to at least break down like maybe I think it's gonna break down the substitute here. So Sylveon gonna have to like really decide if it's gonna, you know, continue doing this or not. Is going for a Shadow Ball, doesn't affect Indeedee because of that normal typing, so Armor is just like, we're gonna tag out so you don't take any damage at all. I mean, it's nice, I guess, if you're Alex, that you're slowly getting back all of this like this HP, but we saw Annihilate move first before the Sylveon, so you're probably not gonna have enough left. Yeah, and Alex seeing the writing on the wall here.
And in terms of adjustments you would make, there's not really much you can do. We assume the Umbreon is the main answer to Hard Trick Room, because it has a Snarl the Moonlight. An interesting adjustment here is maybe Toxapex, because you look at it and it has Wide Guard.
Gotta love it.
And it's a Wide Guard and a Water type that can't get hit by Expanding Force. So that's maybe an option for you to go for, but then your main concern is what happens to the partner, right?
Yeah, and I think the fun thing about the fact that this is open team sheet, right, is if you're Alex and if like you're referring to your opponent's team sheets, you're like, okay, well, Armorage worked well for me, and if Alex is thinking about that, then does he bring Toxapex, and now do I have to bring an answer to Toxapex as well, right? So the mind games become a little bit more intense here, and trying to figure out like how hard of a read are you going to try to make onto your opponent.
Yeah, I mean, one interesting thing you can look at is that Expanding Force obviously single target without the terrain, but it's still a Toxapex, right? Like, yeah. You can't. It's pretty hard to damage without any stab boosts. It is a Life Orb Armorage, though. You never know.
Just that little bit of extra damage every single time. It really does matter at the end of the day, right? Like every single bit of damage kind of helps. Like the only time it really bites you and like it really bites your decisions is when you have specific berries that you're just like, oh, if I didn't activate that berry that turn, then I could have like been able to like pick it up, like the knockout or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it becomes a game of numbers at that point. I think leading Sylveon Umbreon this time around might be a little bit difficult, and I you know, you're seeing Nate trying to figure out what's the best thing to pair up with it in Indeedee, because I think now it's all of a sudden like Armrouge was great, but I don't know if it'll work for that third time. Right?
Yeah, and we see him hovering the mouse here, but the mouse is actually like pretty strong into this team. You're only really worried about Garchomp, and you're worried about the mismatches, which is why we always see Nate with the mouse in the back.
Mouse in the back. There's mice in the back, guys. Please don't go there. I think it's rough too, because it's like Population Bomb is such a great move, right? Like again, like when you pair it with Wide Lens and Technician, it does so much more damage than you would expect something like that to do. But against the Garchomp, that's the really only tough thing that you would like hit that into. Anything else is just like, oh, it's like free damage at that point.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I wonder if we're gonna see a change. Yeah. So we are gonna see the Toxapex this time. No double evolutions, but we are gonna see Indeedee and Armourouge. You know, worked so well that second game, and might as well go through with it. But Garchomp and Toxapex, like we were talking about, that Toxapex having Wide Guard makes the Expanding Force choice a little bit tougher.
And it's especially tough next to a Garchomp too, because Garchomp will resist the armor cannon for Armourouge, and you're only just weakening yourself to more earthquakes.
Yeah, it's just, now it's just a matter of like, are you also going to change Toxapex typing here? Because I think it's pretty great that like, hey, I have these two answers that I could go for your Indeedee and Armourouge, and I have like, that was a Trick Room click, wasn't it? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, you don't even need to, because there's not much that can. You're really only worried about armor cannon.
All right, that was a grass terastallizing for the Armourouge, and I mean, sure, makes a little bit of sense here, right?
You take less damage from the earthquake.
Yeah, so at least that way you're just like, I don't want to lose this immediately, so as of right now, I will go ahead and just make sure that, like, hey, it will just bring up like this and here, and there's a Toxapex wide guard just in case. I actually don't disagree with like clicking it because you never know when they might click Expanding Force. Garchomp going for that earthquake, like you had said, that grass terrestrializing, gonna make sure it doesn't do as much damage here. And I mean, honestly though, like that indeed took some considerable damage from it, as Armor Cannon goes straight into that Garchomp, is going to get knocked down a couple stages. That's still like a lot of damage.
That's
for
a 2-hit KO still.
Like, that's pretty gross. The fact that Indeedee is now able to get that Trick Room up though puts that Garchomp in a really terrible position.
Yeah, I'm not sure Alex was expecting that to be a 2-hit KO, because
I wasn't expecting that to be 2-hit KO, honestly.
Now there's nothing stopping you from just hitting Follow Me and Armor Cannon again.
Yeah, I maybe you just protect yourself like on this turn if you're gonna launch, or you switch out to something that maybe could take it a little bit better. But Expanding Force, I think, do you just keep clicking Wide Guard here? Because
I mean, he's making a read here, expecting the Garchomp to protect and probably the Toxapex to Infestation.
Oh, I hate the way that move looks. Please, please, Alex, do not click Infestation. I will hate this.
Oh, but either way, the read's working out.
Oh my gosh, yeah, oh god. Well, I mean, the important part is you're gonna hit this Garchomp, right? Oh, never mind, you won't hit this Garchomp. Because Garchomp's going for Protect. Umbreon's going to be really the only that takes, actually doesn't even take the damage here at all, as Follow Me from Indeedee is trying to be the center of attention. No one will really pay attention to it, unfortunately, in this instant, as Garchomp is protecting, and Umbreon on that switch-in was like, I do not perceive Psychic-type moves. You cannot touch me.
Yeah, and here's when you look at the Trick Room, like, well, now there's an Umbreon that can Terra Fire, and, well, Alex hasn't obviously terrestrialized his Garchomp yet, for obvious reasons, but now this Umbreon, you can get a free Snarl. That is a good switch, though. Very defensive. You presumably get the Defiant boost off that.
Yeah, so now that Umbreon was like, oh, I was gonna aim for this Armarouge, but Annihilate is like, this is my bread and butter. But it is also gonna have to like take 2 hits. I mean, you know, great on you, Alex, for getting that poison with poison jabs. But I don't know if it's really gonna matter for this Annihilate. I think at that point you sort of were wishing for a burn to just sort of negate a little bit of the Defiant boosts.
Yeah, and most Umbreon have foul play, but since Indeedee's still on the field, it can just Follow Me, and you have that Garchomp slot. Nothing is really switching into it.
Yeah.
We saw Toxapex. Okay, you can go for a Ghost type move into the Toxapex or into the Garchomp slot. You don't really lose much by it either.
I definitely saw that Indeedee go for a Dazzling Gleam on here. We'll do super effective damage onto it, but I actually think that what you're saying about the Follow Me is really, for me, like a better idea sometimes, just because that way you don't have to worry about the Annihilate taking unnecessary damage. You're looking at, you know, Alex's team sheet, you see the foul play, and you're like, I should make sure I protect, like, yeah, there you go. It's like, make sure I protect, this Annihilate from having to, like, that Defiant boost, like, be used against it. Instead, we see the Umbreon leaving the field. We're gonna see that Toxapex come back out onto that field. That Toxapex, which switched out when it mattered no, it didn't really matter anyway because of that.
This is when the poison starts to matter, though. Each turn, Annihilate's just losing health, and you can kind of just keep stalling, and it's gonna take more damage from Garchomp Rough Skin, and that slot is suddenly becoming like no longer just a free target.
Yeah, it's so interesting that it wasn't the Toxapex that did the poison here and was doing the poison stalling at this point. And I mean, I think Indeedee is also like in that spot where it's like, okay, well, it set up the Trick Room and did all this stuff, but Annihilate kind of has to stand on its own right now, or else it's not going to be able to really do much.
Yeah.
So, I really do love what Alex led with, right? But Indeedee is going to be leaving the field. That Armarouge is coming back into its place. I think Psychic Terrain is supposed to expire this turn anyway as well.
Yeah.
But Shadow Claw.
It is intriguing that we see the Armors instead of the Mouse Hold, because Mouse Hold would put more pressure on anything any other partner that it has, other than I guess the mismatches.
I genuinely cannot stand like the way that this move looks at the end when it looks like it's like infested and stuff. I can't do it. Like, oh my god, I'm holding up my hand to like cover this on the screen because I can't stand looking at it. It's just great move idea, terrible animation for me. It's just ugh. But I mean, now you've got 2 Pokemon that are taking residual damage at the end of every turn, right? And like, if you really wanted to, you could toxic this stuff too and just do toxic stall. But I mean, Umbreon coming in here relatively safe for the most part. Like we said, it does have a Terra Fire type as well. So now you're like, you could at least just make sure that you're not taking a ton of damage from close combat.
Yeah, I mean, Annihilate is Scarf from the Shadow Claw, I believe, but either way, the most important thing here is I think Expanding Force is now single target.
Oh yeah.
And this Toxapex doesn't have Protect, so you can pretty safely double into it.
Oh, this poor Toxapex. Yeah, it went for a Wide Guard. Maybe just expecting like an Indeedee switch or anything like that. And I'm going, like you said, for that Shadow Claw. Does so much damage into that Toxapex. His Armor is just going to double down into it with that single target Expanding Force due to the fact that Psychic Terrain is no longer out on that field. So Toxapex goes down, tried to do what it was brought for, was unable to really do what it needed to. Foul Play though, free to go into the Armor. I think that crit might actually matter a little bit because there was no like huge boost to its attack or anything like that. Both Armorage and Annihilate are sort of like on a timer here. I forgot that Sylveon was still in the back. I probably had one more Pokemon there still.
Yeah, I mean, now you're still in a tricky position though, because
if you're Nate or if you're Alex?
If you're Alex, because your Umbreon doesn't have Protect, and you don't want to risk too much damage on Sylveon either. So if you just take a Shadow Claw on Sylveon or an Armor Cannon on Umbreon, you've probably taken too much damage, and Mousehold just cleans up. Yeah. Oh. Especially because Mousehold has still has an Indeedee next to it.
Ooh, all right, so
and he's just going for the KO here.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So Sylveon protecting for almost a lost cause here as Umbreon is double down into actually that Umbreon being able to hold on just at least a little bit more here. I think both Armorage and Annihilate will go down this turn from both either just that. Did it miss?
Something missed.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! That sucks. That's actually oh my gosh, that actually would have been great. Oh my god. Oh no. You hate to see it.
Yeah. And now is where it gets rough, because if it also depends on the armor's speed tier, I suppose. Because if we don't we think Sylveon is faster, right?
I'm not we know for sure that the Umbreon is sorry. It's just this Mousehold too, because the Mousehold like
yeah, the Mousehold, you have a free attack into Umbreon here because it can't protect.
Oh my god. Oh no! Oh my gosh. That miss matters so much too. That is so unfortunate. Is he finally Terastallize? Is he going Steel or is he going Fire?
I mean, Fire is the only thing that...
Nope, we're going for the Steel.
I mean, you're getting Encored. So.
Yeah. That's just unfortunate now. I mean, I guess like you can't even stall out the Encore here, which really that's just so unfortunate, right? Like, if you were able to at least imagine you got that double protect though, and like didn't have to worry about the Armor Cannon hit, because now you're just take super effective damage into that Sylveon with that Armor Cannon thanks to nope. Yeah, it's just like it's like I'm just so sad about that Snarl miss.
I mean, when you look at it, did it matter? Maybe not, because you Encore the Sylveon anyways, and from there you have an Indeedee out, so the Umbreon
can't... he sells the Indeedee, yeah,
he sells the Indeedee, so the Umbreon can't foul play the Mousehold anyways.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. So, I mean, imagine somehow, though, that you're able to at least, like, stall out the Encore.
Yeah, there was a world.
No, there is, right? Because look, so now you're guaranteed to protect.
Bomb could miss.
So now you're helping hand the population bomb too, just to add like insult to injury at this point. But no, Alex, you could have, right? Because now you're guaranteed that protect for this turn. There's a 50% chance you get that protect.
You have to PP stall population.
Yeah,
bomb.
I mean, like there is a world I think where Alex could have gotten that match though, because look. as if there's a percentage chance, there's a chance that you win, right? So like
Mouse will always misses when it's most
when
important.
it matters. This is the rule of the game, right? If it matters, you're gonna miss it. And I think it's wild to me because look, so that turn it fails, right? Because you got encored for it. You'll get the guaranteed protect now because it failed the turn before. You have the 50% chance for it. Like what encore lasts for like what 3-4 turns or something like that. Okay. So the helping hand would probably have gone into the guaranteed protect for that turn, so you don't have to worry about that. Then it has the helping hand again. There's still a world, in my opinion, where Alex could have gotten it. Like we've seen triple protects. It is possible, right? I feel a little bit robbed of that potential endgame now, and I'm a little bit sad about that. But at least on the bright side, you don't have to worry about this team, maybe. Because they were both X1, right? So they're like round 4 going like scenario like X2. We're doing a top 8 cut. It's been a really long time since I've looked at cut, so I like don't remember how it would work. I don't think X2 would get. Well, there's 25 people.
There should be 2 or 3, I think.
So yeah, and even our next round's gonna be the last one. I think they were actually our last match, so we'll take a quick break.
As expected.
Yeah, that Umbria. No, I'm so glad I only got to see Infestation once. I genuinely cannot stand that animation. It's so gross. But we're gonna take a quick break to just hydrate, and then we'll jump back in for our last round. So thank you guys for joining us. Don't go anywhere, like at all. Just don't. At all.
Don't move.
Don't move. Just don't move. But we're gonna move to go get some water. So see you guys in a little bit.